my expertise is not free. It's not going to be free. Not at this point. Because also what has happened in the past is I spent a lot of time with people who really weren't ready to do the work, and it wasted my time, it wasted their time. I would much rather spend that limited amount of time on people who are ready to do the work and everything that comes with it, and also feel like I am being paid for all these years of experience and all the lessons that I had to learn. I'm okay with saying today, yeah, you can't get that for free.
Right. Let's talk about that, because when you're in corporate America and you sit in these seats,
Yeah.
it can be perceived as you have to be someone that you're not.
Mm.
You know, was that the case for you? Did you have to go in and show and
Yeah.
prove, or was it one of
Yeah.
those things?
Getting
Yeah,
deep
I
right
said,
off the bat.
hey, if you guys are
Like,
listening, watching on YouTube, I said, I wish we were recording then. I'm like, no, I met Shelley
yeah.
on TikTok and I'm like, that's my people. Like, I don't know. Like, I was like, yep, that's her. And I was like, that's family. So anyway, we just started talking and connecting on family, and we're just hopping into it. A quick intro. This is Shelley, VP of Sales, Account Management. She works for, a great company. She has years of experience of leadership. Just go follow her on LinkedIn. TikTok is where she gives the free gems, and that's where we connected. I'm like, that's my people. So if you're in sales or if you're looking for some tips on how to level up, listen to this episode. I literally just spoke to her for maybe 5 minutes, but I know this is going to be impactful. So let's hop into it. So let's talk about that. Like, how did you show up in that corporate space?
So that's a very layered question, because as a Black woman, identity inside the corporate space, outside the corporate space is just very layered. And when you think about what is required to be successful in corporate America, right? A space that was designed for a very specific demographic, the white male, right? So anyone else outside of that identity, you have to figure out how to navigate it. Early in my career, I would say that I was a chameleon, meaning I knew if I wanted to be in the space and be successful and not miserable, I had to figure out the language of that space and how things worked without giving up like who I am. But the reality is you need to be educated on what you are up against or the game so that you can then learn it and then make it your own. And that's exactly what I did. I learned it. I really, in my early career, I was very much of the mindset of leading with like humility, and I'm here. I'm coachable. I want to learn. I lead. I show up very differently. I do not shy away from the language that I speak growing up. I grew up in the hood. So there's a level that I balance in terms of this is how I speak at home, right? I'm very educated. However, I am a Black woman who has a certain dialect, and I'm not about to put that away just to make you comfortable. I actually have found that I've been more respected showing up authentically, and I have created space for others, even, folks that are not Black, but other identities to show up authentically as well. Now, that topic of showing up authentically is like very sensitive, meaning I am not talking about like the Shelley showing up as the Shelley who shows up with her friends. Don't bring that authentic self to work. Okay. You're here to do a job.
Right.
Bring your professional authentic self to work, meaning it's okay to talk like you naturally talk. Personal for me, I work with highly intelligent people, right? And naturally, they know how to speak in very complex terminology. That is not how I communicate. I communicate in very simple, easy to understand language because that's how I talk. So that was a long-winded way of saying it's layered, but now I am comfortable enough to not shy away from showing up who I am and being true to myself and being professional at the same time. It's a balance.
I think you really have to share your experience because like I can relate to that too.
I want to take a pause for a second and talk about your confidence, right? You got the experience, the results, the credibility, but when it comes to putting your voice out there, fear creeps in. Who am I to do this? Does that sound familiar? That's imposter syndrome, and it's keeping you small. My coaching is about breaking through that, helping you turn your expertise into content, conversation, and coaching that builds real influence in your industry. So if you're done hiding behind titles and ready to lead with your story, head over to connectingwithcreatives.com/coaching and let's get started. I'll see you soon.
From the outside, before you get into space, you think you have to like code switch a lot, or you have to really be. But once you're in these spaces, they really want to know if you're competent. Are you a team player? Do you have the soft? They're hiring for soft skills, and they could train up from there. And if, to your point, and we'll talk about your journey in a second, but you're showing that you have leadership capability, that you're proven. Like we can get it all into that, but they only care about. Not only, but they want to know you're a good person, you're ethical, but you have soft skills. That I think in a remote world, if you're able to like read the room, that can go a long way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Especially being in the tech space is like like you said, you're dealing with these personalities that are very logical as black and white. If it don't make, you have to come to their level and humanize it. And when you're able to humanize it and you're showing up as your authentic self, people could read like, you read my energy, I read yours. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like this is family. Okay.
Yep.
And they could see that and they want to be led by someone like that.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
but let's go back though. How did you get in the seat that you're in? Because when I did my research, Shelley always been a leader. Have you always been leading like in elementary, middle school, high school?
Yeah, in some ways, I have always been the leader. And as early as I can remember, I just remember being like a preteen, even in my friend group. And yeah, I was naturally the person who influenced decisions and influenced behavior, good and bad. And so, so when I got into the workplace, those same traits showed up. And I'm just thinking about my first supervisor. I started out in customer service. And even working part-time in college, I became a supervisor because it's just naturally who I am. I always say at this point, I would consider other opportunities outside of sales even. The thing that matters most to me is leading. It has to be a leadership role. So,
It has to be. So like, let's talk about your personality though. I
Mhm.
might be wrong, but are you naturally introverted? Are you
Yes.
okay? So let's go. When you said like, hey, when you first got in, I identify as being introverted too, right? But when you get with your people, we can go deep in conversation in depth instead of wide. We don't like to have carnal, let me see, dumb conversation about like just nothing. You know what I'm saying? But I noticed when you always been in the leadership, or you said you've been in a leadership role, but like your skill set is you're watching, you're scanning the room, you're seeing who's who, and you know how to connect with them and meet them where they're at. If you're introverted, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. It's actually a superpower. And when you're like Shelley, you're a leader naturally, but you have that personality to where you're more introverted. That's a skill set. Let's talk about how your skill set being introverted has led you to where you are right now.
Yeah, I would say my purpose. I feel like I am operating in my purpose when I connect on an intimate level and I make space for others. I guess I'm introverted when it comes to your point, like the surface level connection. I don't do good with that. Meaning, you could put me in a room at a conference and there's like 1,000 people, and I would probably feel like this is not the space for me. I could be at that same conference and I could be in one of the breakout sessions with 10 to 20 people, and you would be like, I thought she said she was introverted. because it's more intimate and I have a way to really understand how people are feeling. Like I just have this innate sense of like understanding how, based on their body language, based on what they're saying, how they might be feeling, and then meeting them where they are. So whether it be, I tend to always look for the people who are sitting by themselves. I tend to always just look for people who may be uncomfortable. And to me, I feel good when I'm creating a space to make people feel comfortable. However you want to kind of paint that picture. That's where, in my opinion, my introverted superpower comes into play. It's like, okay, this person is, and again, it has to be smaller spaces. I mean, I guess even in a larger space, I tend to gravitate to the smaller group who's kind of sitting or standing, off to the side. I would say that's how my introverted superpower shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not saying that you can't mask, because I mask too. I turn it on like, okay, but it's draining, right? Let's keep it real. But
Yes.
my preference is small, intimate. Let me rock with people I rock with. So they're getting value. I'm getting value, but I definitely know how to turn it up. And I know you do too. You have to
Yes, I
be,
have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
in that role, but it's like that's not your preference. So
Mhm.
let's talk about like, okay, you started in customer service,
Mhm.
cool. Like you care about people, right? That's you naturally. So how
Yeah.
did you go from caring? Because we know sales, there's different strategies, but I'm gonna say my approach too is just like, let me provide value, let me consult,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But how do you go from having a customer service background, being introverted, to VP of sales? How you do that?
So I would say that most of the opportunities that I've had along the way were of a leader that I worked with at one point in time. They left the company and asked
Mm,
me to come with them. And I would say a lot of that is because, again, in my early to mid career, it was really important for me to be looked at as someone who was a owner, was coachable, but learned quickly. And then I executed without asking for permission. I'm not really someone who ask a lot of questions. I kind of just okay, I take signals and then I just act. Now, a lot of times people who tend to not take that approach, they'll ask for permission, right? That concept. I think there's value there. That's just not who I am. And so to me, that translates to I can depend on her. She's
mm.
an owner, and that has worked really well for me. And so I have had several opportunities in terms of pivoting to a different function. So customer service to project management, from project management to customer success to account management and now sales. And it's literally because a leader left and said, I'm trying to do this thing. You might not have direct experience, but I think you would be good at it. And I was. So that's essentially what I credit my evolution to in terms of how I don't have a linear career path,
Right.
but has always been important to me is how I show up for others. And even to this day, I'm a VP. My direct boss is our chief commercial officer. It's really important that he knows that I'm here for his mission and to carry out his mission. I have a little bit of a different voice than I did back then, but I always align with my leader and leadership, and it has proved beneficial.
So what she's saying, people that are watching and listening, she has skill set. She's dependable. But what she's saying also is office politics, right? So that's a thing that if you don't know, who toes you're stepping on, like how to speak in these Zoom or Google meetings. If you're not a team player, if you're not adding value to the mission, you're looking to advance your career, you're hurting yourself. So can you talk about how you navigate like office politics when there's not alignment, when you are working with a new direct report, and it's like, how do you, with the introverted personality, but
Mhm.
you have skill set, you have experience, how do you navigate those waters?
It's not easy. It's not easy. I'll give you an example without like being super specific. So there was one point in my career where I had to reposition the alignment that typically works for me, right? Meaning what I just said. So I was super focused on my direct manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, my direct manager was missing the mark.
I could.
So after a couple instances of experiencing that and seeing that in real time, what I knew I had to do was take the focus off of that individual and level up, like go a level up, right? So I essentially chose to align myself with their direct manager, so my skip level. That person was more clear in terms of what success looked like. It was very difficult though, because I not only had to manage my direct manager and their thought process and things that were important to them that were completely different from my skip level, right? It was not easy, but again, that emotional intelligence of being able to read a room,
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. Like, one, be aware.
Right.
Always be aware of the politics. Who are the stakeholders here? And what is their position? Figure out, like, obviously, always start with your direct manager. Do not work against your direct manager. However, sometimes you kind of have to pivot and go off that path and look for someone else to align yourself and your brand and your reputation in that organization to. But you have to do it in a very delicate way. So what very specific things that I started doing is I would then have one-on-ones with my skip level, which was common, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just aligning with just having a skip level meeting. And then I would also make sure that I championed anything that the skip level was doing. So whether it be making sure that I am commenting on their LinkedIn post, I position myself as their champion. As a result, I got promoted. And unfortunately, my direct manager at the time was not a thing.
Right.
After a while. So again, I think it just takes awareness of what is this environment? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to minimize it to a game. Corporate politics, it is a game, right? And you can decide if you want to. What sometimes people do that goes wrong is make it about them, right? They
Mm-hmm.
show up at this organization, interviewed well, got the job. They show up and immediately they're like, what's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Versus let me understand the business and let me understand how what I do brings value to the business. And that's where they go wrong. Like, it's not about you. You're being paid to move a business forward in whatever function you are in. Once you understand that game, then you can say, okay, I need to understand the environment. Who are the stakeholders and how do I engage each of them successfully in a way that's going to benefit me? Because yes, at the end of the day, it is about us, but we shouldn't lead with that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And just speaking on that last like topic about your direct report not having the skill set, they were missing the mark. That's a real thing. Your personality, you don't want to like out them, but at the same time, that's impacting your work too. So what she's saying, people, you have to use strategy you have to play this game. If not, sometimes people could be sitting in the wrong seat. Maybe that
Mhm.
person was good in a different role, not in a leadership role or middle management, whatever it was, they need to play in a different lane. Maybe they're a producer,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
that, like you were just talking about, like someone could come in and it's all about them. Well, to keep that same energy, I need you to produce then.
Yeah.
Like maybe, and that's cool. Everybody has their different goals. Now, give me an example of, with your frameworks. Like I've been watching TikToks, I've been watching your LinkedIn, and you're in the authority space and you understand what time it is, right? With AI and things of that nature. So
Mhm.
how are you using your experience to leverage to supplement what you're creating outside of, your 9 to 5?
Yeah. So a couple different ways. One of the ways that is a little like newer in the last year or so is coaching. So over the last, I would say, especially during the pandemic, I feel like something about the pandemic just created this space of people who wanted to learn more. right? And kind of skill up. And so historically, Shelley would have juggled her full-time job and everyone in her LinkedIn inbox asking for advice, asking for coffee chats, asking for just all the things. And because I truly want to see, especially people who look like me, I truly want to see them succeed because I understand what that means in terms of earning more to design the life of your dreams. However, I am 20 plus years in this game. At this point in my career, I am not about to spend the time because I still have a full-time job. I think that's like one of the things that I try to help people understand about me in terms of why I choose to charge for my time now. I have a full-time job. I am a mother, right? I have very limited time. And so the time that I do spend really helping people create strategy for their career, there's a very small window of time. I also am not afraid to say that my expertise is not free. It's not going to be free. Not at this point. Because also what has happened in the past is I spent a lot of time with people who really weren't ready to do the work, and it wasted my time, it wasted their time. I would much rather spend that limited amount of time on people who are ready to do the work and everything that comes with it, and also feel like I am being paid for all these years of experience and all the lessons that I had to learn. I'm okay with saying today, yeah, you can't get that for free.
Let's talk about that because that's a real thing. I'm the same way too, right? I would do this for free. Like I would do, coach for free. Like I literally coached for 15 plus years. Like I was a fitness and I was a strength and conditioning coach. And I would just give, that this is me, exhortation, like coaching, like this is me. I see people, but I want to know more. I'm always curious. So, but now like you understand what 20 plus years of leadership transformation results, that you understand how powerful that is. Now, what is your goal? I would say in the next 2 to 3 years. And we're both in this space to where we're having these meetings and they're talking about the technology that they're incorporating inside the business, and we're seeing the layoffs. We're seeing all of these things. How are you really looking at like your consulting or coaching business as a real vehicle, right? Like you talked about ownership, project management, you have leadership skills, you have sales skills, you have all of these skills. What priority level is in the next, 2 to 3 years that you're looking like, hey, I want optionality versus like these handcuffs to this situation. Where are you at with that?
Quite honestly, I am very much in the early phase of that. So I have a coach myself. I have an executive coach myself. And that is one of the things that I am exploring in terms of what does in the next 5 to 10 years, when I'm 50, what do I want my life to look like in terms of how I earn? And my default, quite honestly, has always been corporate because I like that I can like turn off. However, again, to your point, in this environment, you 100% need optionality. And so that's something that I'm in the early phases of figuring out. I have, working with my executive coach, consulting did come up. And now I just need to figure out what does that look like in terms of what aligns with my experience, who are the individual, like what is my audience, right? I'm in the early phase of understanding what that looks like. But it's definitely something that I know that I need to prioritize by the end of the year, like having a solid picture. But again, that's where the executive coach is coming in.
For sure. And I love this for you. So coming up with offers and what you coach on is really just like, what does the data say? I know you're a data person. Is just like, what do they constantly come to you for? Like, what is it? What do they come to you for? Let me take 5 minutes to kind of coach you. I know you got a coach, but
Yes.
what do they say?
Yeah. So there are usually two themes: mid-level professionals who want to become a leader or they want to break into tech sales. Those are
Which
like
one which one do you like the most?
mid-level becoming a leader.
How can you provide a transformation for them? Like what frameworks do you use to get them results?
Yeah, so generally speaking, I always start with strengths. Like, what is your skill set? What is your current skill set? I'm really big on assessments because that builds data. And then from there, I can like build out something that makes sense, that's tailored to them. That's usually what I start with and what has worked well is understanding the person and then creating a tailored roadmap to get
Mhm.
there.
Gotcha. I love that. So like, and you do understand, I know you understand, like, this is the real game. This day we're in, like when we look at, Myron Golden,
Mm-hmm.
you look at just like in this space, you have Myron Golden, Omar El Takori, you have Dan Martell, you just have Alex Ramosi. They're in a space to where you build the personal brand. This is you building the personal brand outside of work,
Mhm.
what you're
Yep.
known for, what you're doing on LinkedIn and TikTok. When
Mhm.
I come across your page on TikTok, okay, I know I'm gonna get some game. You know what I'm saying? That's what I expect.
Yeah.
She's gonna have some value on how to navigate these waters. I know that. So you're
Yeah.
building a
Yeah.
brand. Now it's all about distribution. I expect to see Shelley on a daily basis. When I log into TikTok, I know I'm gonna get something, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then, like when we're talking about like having offers of consulting. Now like you can charge. Like, sorry, I know I should be coaching outside, but this is who I
No,
am. But
this
I
is
see it. I'm
good.
like 20, 10,000 for these transformations. I seen it. You know, I pay for it. Like I have a coach too.
Mhm.
20. I invested 20,000 because I want a transformation. You're able to give someone a transformation. You have the resume. You have, okay, cool. Like I know what this is. Cool.
Mhm.
Like we're
Mhm.
talking about office politics. That's experience.
Mhm.
I'm listening to, that's experience. She knows how to navigate these waters. So I could confidently say, Shelley, like you're literally whatever you're doing as far as generating in your commission, your salary, you can do that outside.
I
And
know,
it
that's
doesn't have to
well,
conflict.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't conflict with work because
No, it
you're
doesn't.
proven. We're not worried about that. It's like, sorry, this is Coach Jay. Like you could have like in the next year, Shelley's gonna have a podcast, guys. I'm telling you, like I'm speaking it for you. You know how you have somebody on your team. Oh, this is a star player. Like I don't gotta worry about this one. That's what you are. I'm like, oh, she
Yeah.
got the goods.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, we'll talk after. And this is not me selling. This is just me. I don't care what you do. Like for you know what I'm saying? I just want you to win. Like you said at when I just want you to win. Like
Yeah.
you're out of here. Like literally, like you're out of here. Anyway, that was Coach
Yeah.
Jay, but
I
I'm
accept
off of
it.
that. Yeah, yeah, because you got it. Like
I
this is
accept
just
it.
me. Sorry. Like I get it from my dad. My dad just be growing up, he was just like I would just see him just talking to anyone. Like you're saying, encouraging people. He will pray for people. Like just random people I would see. And I'm like, hmm. And I literally like I don't pray for people, but I'm like, who's over there sitting lonely and stuff? Hey, how's
Yeah.
it going? Like you reading the room, like you want to make people feel encouraged and pour into people, right? They might need that. So that's who you are, right?
I
So there's no reason why, in today's age, we should be leveraging these tools that we have, right? Like to automate a lot of things. And let's talk about that. Like, how do you like? Because I checked your Calendly. Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. She on it. How do you? What does your day look like, or how do you navigate that consulting business and work?
Yeah. So right now, I have on a weekly basis 6 hours dedicated to coaching,
Hmm.
consulting, strategy calls outside of my full time role. They could be split between, I would say, in terms of how I integrate it into the workday, the business hours, 3 hours are usually during my 9 to 5 window. The other half is in the evenings or Saturday morning.
I love that. And do you feel charged or like amped when you get on these calls and you're
Yes.
consulting? It
Yes.
feeds you, right? So
Yes.
this is you're walking in purpose. So
Mhm.
if you were out of
Mhm.
alignment, you're like, this don't feel when you feel
Yeah.
drained, like
Yeah.
I'm turned up right now
Yeah. Mhm.
because I'm doing what I feel like I'm called to do. is connecting with. We're all called to create. God didn't put us on this earth to not create.
Yeah.
He said, "Be fruitful and multiply." I'm not going to give a sermon, but I'm just saying, like
Amen, somebody. Come on.
you
Yes.
gotta multiply. I was talking to
Yeah.
my daughter the other day. I'm like, yo, like he called us to do this. Like he called us to multiply. Like he called us to
Yeah.
enhance. He didn't call us. I was talking about the talents. We all have talents. If you're given 5, whatever, somebody's given 2 according to your ability. Jesus is like, man, like, bruh, you didn't buried your gift. You buried the talent.
You're
I don't
so
want to
right.
bury my
Yes.
talent. You're not burying your talent. So if you guys are interested in how to level up your career, Shelley, how can they find that? Like, where should they
Yes.
be looking?
So I would start with LinkedIn. So Rochelle Shearlds on LinkedIn, and then definitely follow me on TikTok, where you can book a session. We can have a discovery session to understand what you're trying to do, and then I can let you know if I am the right fit. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes I have to say I'm not the best fit, and I would recommend other coaches that I know. And then I would love to work with anyone who, again, is mid-career looking for a leadership roadmap or looking to break into tech sales.
That is powerful. Shelley, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, we could have talked like forever.
I know.
Make sure you guys you do all of that stuff, but let Shelley know. I'll get the information from her. I'll put it in the show notes to where you
Yes,
guys
please.
can just tap in with her. But let her know in the comment section what you guys thought. Was this helpful? I know it was. Hopefully, you guys being more introverted, or if you're ambiverted or you mask or whatever the case may be, this is like proof that you can navigate these corporate buildings and excel. You don't have to be extroverted. You don't have to turn up all the time. That's draining for us. So let us know what you thought of this episode. Thank you.